Ever seen a building melt cars? Or a bridge that wobbles so much it makes people seasick? What about a skyscraper that literally rains glass onto the streets? Believe it or not, some of the world's most expensive and ambitious architectural projects turned into absolute disasters, costing millions, ruining reputations, and even claiming lives. In this video, we're diving into 8 of the most shocking, costly, and downright unbelievable architectural failures. The Walkie-Talkie, London. Standing tall in London's financial district, 20 Fenchurch Street, better known as the Walkie-Talkie, was designed to be an architectural marvel. Completed in 2014, and designed by acclaimed architect Raffaele Vignoli, the 37-story skyscraper was intended to provide spectacular office spaces with sweeping city views, but instead of being a futuristic landmark, it quickly became infamous for its unintended and dangerous design flaws. The building's curved glass facade acted like a massive concave mirror, concentrating sunlight onto the streets below. This solar glare phenomenon created what locals dubbed the walkie-scorchy effect, generating temperatures hot enough to melt cars, scorch bicycles, and even burn storefronts. One Jaguar owner found parts of his car warped after being parked nearby for just 2 hours. Beyond the blinding heat beam, the tower's shape also caused severe wind tunnel effects, making walking around the area difficult on breezy days. After public outcry, engineers installed sunshade panels on the facade, a costly fix that added millions to the already expensive £200 million project. Fun fact is that despite its flaws, 20 Fenchurch Street remains a striking part of London's skyline. Lotus Riverside Complex, Shanghai. Imagine waking up one morning looking outside and seeing an entire 13-story apartment building lying flat on the ground, not collapsed into rubble but perfectly intact, like a domino piece that just tipped over. Sounds impossible, right? Well, that's exactly what happened at the Lotus Riverside Complex in Shanghai in 2009, and it remains one of the most shocking architectural failures in history. This residential complex was supposed to provide modern housing, but due to severe construction mismanagement, disaster struck before residents could even move in. The culprit? A mix of poor planning, rushed construction, and a serious engineering oversight. Workers were excavating an underground parking garage on one side of the building, while at the same time, a massive pile of excavated dirt was dumped on the opposite side. Add to that some heavy rainfall, and the soil beneath the foundation became dangerously unstable. With one side sinking and the other being pushed up, the building had no choice but to fall over completely, without even breaking apart. Miraculously, no one was inside when it happened, but the sheer scale of the failure raised serious concerns about China's rapid urban development. The shocking visuals of the fallen tower spread worldwide, serving as a terrifying lesson in structural engineering gone wrong. John Hancock Tower, Boston. What if I told you that Boston's tallest skyscraper, the John Hancock Tower, had a reputation for raining glass onto the streets? That's right. This 60-story tower, completed in 1976, turned into one of the biggest architectural disasters in history, almost becoming a death trap before it was even fully operational. Designed by architect I.M. Pei, the tower was supposed to be a sleek, modern masterpiece, with a reflective glass facade mirroring the Boston skyline. But soon after construction, something terrifying started happening. Giant 500-pound glass panels began popping out and crashing onto the sidewalks below. The cause? The glass couldn't handle thermal expansion and wind pressure, creating a deadly hazard. To prevent injuries, the city had to block off entire streets, and for a while pedestrians had to walk with umbrellas, not for rain, but for falling glass. And if that wasn't bad enough, the entire building swayed so much that occupants on higher floors felt motion sickness. Engineers eventually installed a tuned mass damper system to stabilize the tower, but fixing the glass problem alone cost $5 to $7 million. A fortune back then. Despite its rocky start, the John Hancock Tower still stands today, a reminder that even architectural icons can have shocking design flaws. Tacoma Narrows Bridge, Washington. Imagine driving across a brand new bridge, only to feel the entire structure twisting, bouncing, and rolling beneath you like a wild roller coaster. That's exactly what happened with the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in Washington, also known as Galloping Gertie, a name it earned before collapsing in one of the most dramatic engineering failures in history. Opened in July 1940, The bridge was supposed to be a sleek, modern marvel, stretching 5,939 feet across the Puget Sound. But there was a serious problem. Engineers prioritized cost-saving over stability, designing a bridge that was too thin and too flexible. Instead of withstanding high winds, it danced in the air, with movement so extreme that drivers saw cars ahead of them disappear into the dips. For months, engineers struggled to fix the issue, but on November 7, 1940, disaster struck. A 42 mph windstorm triggered a violent twisting motion, and within hours the bridge snapped and collapsed into the water below, just 4 months after opening. Incredibly, no human lives were lost, but a lone dog named Tubby became the tragic victim of the collapse. The failure of Tacoma Narrows Bridge became a legendary case study in physics and aerodynamics, leading to massive improvements in bridge design worldwide. Today, its remains lie underwater, serving as a chilling reminder that cutting corners in engineering can have catastrophic consequences. Millennium Bridge, London. Imagine stepping onto a brand new state-of-the-art bridge, only to feel it swaying uncontrollably beneath your feet. No, it wasn't an earthquake. This was the Millennium Bridge in London, and on its very first day, it turned into one of the most infamous engineering fails in modern history. Unveiled on June 10, 2000, the bridge was designed to be a sleek, futuristic pedestrian crossing over the River Thames, connecting St. Paul's Cathedral to Tate Modern. Thousands of excited Londoners flocked to experience it, only to find themselves clutching onto the railings for dear life as the bridge began to sway from side to side. The problem? Engineers hadn't accounted for a phenomenon called synchronous lateral excitation, which is just a fancy way of saying that when enough people walk in sync, their movements can create a feedback loop that makes a structure move even more. The result? A wobbly nightmare where pedestrians unknowingly made things worse by instinctively adjusting their steps to the motion. Within 2 days, the 18.2 million pound bridge was shut down for urgent fixes, and it took engineers 2 years and another £5 million to install dampers that finally stabilized it. Today the Millennium Bridge stands firm, but its embarrassing grand opening remains a hilarious example of how even modern engineering can miss the mark in unexpected ways. Aon Center, Chicago. Imagine spending $120 million to build a stunning skyscraper, only to realize, oops, the entire exterior is falling apart. That's exactly what happened with Aon Center in Chicago, a 1,136-foot-tall glassy giant that was meant to be a symbol of elegance and modern design. Instead, it became one of the most expensive architectural blunders in history. Originally known as the Standard Oil Building, the tower was completed in 1973 with a gleaming white Carrara marble facade. Sounds fancy, right? Well, there was one huge problem. This type of marble, usually used for sculptures, was never meant for skyscrapers. The thin marble slabs couldn't handle Chicago's extreme weather, and soon, cracks began appearing all over the exterior. Then, in 1974, a 350-pound marble slab plummeted 42 stories onto the roof of the nearby Prudential Center, sending engineers into panic mode. The solution? Rip every single marble panel off the building and replace them with granite, a $80 million mistake, nearly half the original cost of the tower itself. Today the Aon Center still dominates the Chicago skyline, but its marble disaster remains a cautionary tale. Just because something looks beautiful doesn't mean it can handle the real world. Sydney Opera House, Australia. The Sydney Opera House is one of the most iconic buildings in the world, but what if I told you it was also one of the biggest architectural nightmares ever? This wasn't just a construction project. It was an epic saga of budget disasters, engineering headaches, and political drama that nearly ruined careers. Designed by Danish architect Jorn Utzon, the Opera House was supposed to take 4 years and cost $7 million Australian dollars. Sounds reasonable, right? Well, fast forward 14 years and the final price tag had skyrocketed to 102 million Australian dollars, a jaw-dropping 1,357% over budget. One of the biggest challenges, those iconic sail-like shells. Engineers quickly realized that no one had ever built anything like them before. The curved roof was so complex that they spent years trying and failing to figure out how to make it structurally sound. When they finally cracked the code, half the budget was already gone. Meanwhile, political pressure and rising costs forced Utzon to resign mid-project, leaving the building in the hands of others who rushed to finish it. By the time it opened in 1973, it was both a masterpiece and a financial disaster. Sanpung Department Store, Seoul. Imagine shopping in a massive 5-story luxury department store, completely unaware that the building beneath your feet is seconds away from total collapse. That was the horrifying reality for 1,500 people inside the Sanpung department store in Seoul on June 29, 1995, when one of the worst engineering disasters in modern history unfolded. The warning signs had been there for months. Cracks in the ceiling, strange noises, even parts of the floor sinking. But the store's owners? They ignored it all to keep business running. At 5:52 p.m., the entire south wing of the building crumbled like a house of cards, burying hundreds of people under concrete and steel. The shocking reason? Greed and negligence. The building was originally designed as an office complex, but the developers illegally converted it into a department store, removing essential support columns and even adding a heavy rooftop air conditioning unit that weakened the structure. When disaster struck, 502 people lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest modern building collapses. The store's owner, Lee Jun, was sentenced to 7 years in prison, but that didn't bring back the lives lost. Today, the site stands as a memorial, reminding the world that cutting corners in construction can have horrifying consequences. And that's a wrap on some of the most expensive architectural failures in history. What do you think? Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to DwellScape for more mind-blowing architecture stories. Hit like, share, and we'll see you in the next one.